I actually didn't have any problems running the game. Good evening, gamers. Dragons Dogma 2. This game was a highly anticipated release this year, but for me, I didn't really care, to be honest. To give some background as to why, well, I have played many hours of the first Dragons Dogma game. However, I never really beat the game or, even came close to the halfway point, and, the reason behind this is,
I love walking so fun. I love walking.
Everything else about the game was actually pretty fun. But, having to basically walk for 2 hours in real life, to get from just one place to another with very little to no enemy encounters was very taxing on my sanity. So when I saw Dragons Dogma 2 was coming out, I thought, hey, I'll pick it up, I'll play it for a bit, but if it's just like Dragons Dogma 1, I'm out of there. Now, my first impression of Dragons Dogma 2 was pretty positive overall. The tutorial is nice, gets straight to the point while not being very overbearing at all, and then, the game puts you into its open world, and oh my god, I'll find a way to make sweet love to the RE engine one day because this game looks fucking beautiful. Now, before I actually get into anything else, I'm not just gonna sweep the obvious performance issues that everyone has been having under the proverbial rug. However, I have been blessed by the gamer gods and have rarely experienced any frame drops outside of the main hub town, and even then it doesn't get as bad as I've seen other people have it. I don't even have like a top of the line rig, by the way. I think, I guess I am better! I just wanted to touch on that lightly before anything else because, I know there's going to be one little silly goober that goes in the comments and yells about it. But, besides all that, how's the rest of the game? Well, let me tell you, combat feels so perfectly weighty and I love it. It is just so good. I feel like there'll be a fair amount of people that will be, a bit weirded out by the combat at first, or just maybe even straight up hate it because they might come in expecting some like Elden Ring level combat, which this game very much doesn't have. The combat is a lot slower, I guess, than most other action RPGs, which, I personally have zero problems with. I think the best comparison that someone could give would be that it feels more akin to like a Monster Hunter-esque combat than any other RPG. So currently in the game I'm rocking the Warrior vocation, as currently it's my favourite one out of the many you can choose from. Vocations being the game's version of classes, by the way. And, the reason I'm using the Warrior vocation is because, nothing can beat the way it just, pumps me full of euphoria and dopamine when I give a good wallop to someone.
Wonga!
I haven't tried anything like magic or ranged yet, but it looks pretty damn cool. So currently, combat, massive W. Exploration and discovery aren't as good as I'd originally hoped, because currently, like anywhere I go that makes me think, man, something epic's gonna be at the end of this, usually just leaves me sitting there collecting a potion that raises my cold resistance. Like, okay, thanks, Dragons Dogma, really needed that one. But I would say questing in Dragons Dogma 2 more than makes up for that exploration. The starting quests alone in this game are so diverse, it's actually insane. For example, when you reach the main city, you get a choice of a bunch of different quests that range from monster slaying to disguising yourself to infiltrate the castle in the city. For Christ's sakes, there is a goddamn quest that has you house sit for someone for a week. Like, come on, that's sick as hell. Genuinely, the quests are so varied and they're just flat out fun, which is a massive breath of fresh air from modern RPGs nowadays. Now, I wanted to talk about the random encounters because, I thought I'd give them their own segment because my biggest gripe with the original Dragons Dogma it isn't having to walk from one place to another for 2 real life hours. It's having to walk from one place to another for 2 real hours with literally nothing to do in between. And thank God Dragons Dogma 2 completely gets rid of that. There are so many random encounters in this game. It is so good. For example, the best one that's happened to me so far was when I stumbled into, this big rock fella, and I thought, nah, I'd win. But mid-battle with the rock golem, a goddamn griffin just comes out of the sky and you just decided to join in on the fighting. So eventually we ended up with this cursed 3-way fight that ended up with me coming out on top. So if that doesn't get your Johnson riled up, I don't know what will. And finally, I suppose I should probably touch on the main, actual story. I've only just recently beaten the main story, and it's okay, I guess. The story isn't anything too crazy, which, I actually don't mind, because I've played so many single-player games lately that I feel have too many characters, and, the storyline is very intricate and complicated, so it's actually just a breath of fresh air to have a game that I can just pick up after a couple of days of not playing and still actually know what the hell is going on. My main issue with the story is in the second half, everything just feels a tiny bit rushed. Without spoiling too much, there's this big fella in the Dragons Dogma 2 trailer, and I thought to myself, wowza, he must be the big boss man that brings you into the second half of the game. But no, it turns out you fight this big fella when you're near the end of the main story. But, to Dragons Dogma 2's credit, I will say there's a little something you can do at the end of the game to extend your playtime a little bit. So, in summary, Dragons Dogma 2 is an amazing game. I'll be the first to admit it definitely won't be for everyone. I know, brave statements only on this channel. I know, I'm kind of gangster. However, I would definitely recommend at least giving it a try, because I feel like there is something here for everyone to enjoy. Unless, of course, you don't like RPGs, then, I don't know, go play Warzone or some shit.